This is one of 2 revision videos for biology topic 3, which is genetics. If you're a higher student, you have to watch part 1 and part 2, and then also an additional higher video. If you're doing triple, you have to watch part 1, part 2, the higher video, and then also the additional triple video. I hope that makes sense. We're going to start off by looking at the number of keywords that you need to understand if you are going to do well in this topic. The topic itself I don't think is particularly difficult, but the number of keywords that you have to know and understand, I think that's where the challenge is in this topic. You might be better off by pausing the video now and making a list of the keywords that you don't understand, finding out their definitions before you continue with the video. But for everybody that is comfortable, we're going to start off by looking at meiosis, which is actually spelled like that. Let's go. Okay, so we'll start off with a little bit of year 7 biology. We started out life as one cell, which is called the zygote. We then grew. We're now currently made out of billions of cells, and in the future you might decide that you want children. So as an adult, your body will be capable of producing either sperm cells or egg cells. These 2 cells can fuse and become a zygote. The point at which the sperm and egg cell fuse, that is called fertilization, and this produces the first cell that we were all made out of, and that's called the zygote. The zygote splits into 2 cells, then into 4, 8, 16, 32, and so on, until we become a baby, then a small child, a child, an adult, and that's the life cycle of human beings and most other animals. We're then going to put on extra information that you need to know for GCSE science. So the zygote, the fact that that's split into 2 cells and 4 cells, them splitting, that's called mitosis. So mitosis is covered in B2, but mitosis makes cells that are genetically identical. The DNA in them cells is exactly the same. So the DNA found in the zygote is exactly the same DNA that's found in every cell in the adult body. So we're going to be looking at a different type of cell division now, which is called meiosis, and this makes either the sperm cell or the egg cell, which collectively are known as gametes. So meiosis makes these sex cells, which are called gametes, and what has to happen is the DNA in the gametes needs to half so they can both fuse together to make a cell which has all of the DNA. So a slightly different way of looking at this is that meiosis makes haploid cells, cells which have got 23 chromosomes in. So the sperm cell has 23 chromosomes, and so does the egg. When these fuse together during fertilization, this makes the zygote, which has 46 chromosomes. So the zygote has 46 chromosomes, so that is known as diploid. And then mitosis, this makes other cells which are also diploid. So only meiosis can half the number of chromosomes. One way of remembering what these words mean, so haploid cells, haploid starts with HA, which another word that starts with them 2 letters is half. So haploid cells have half the number of normal chromosomes, whereas diploid, words that start with Di, such as carbon dioxide, di shows that there is 2 oxygens. So di means 2 or double. So words like divide means to split into 2. So diploid means double the amount of chromosomes. So we've already used quite a lot of them keywords: mitosis, meiosis, diploid, haploid, fertilization, zygote, chromosomes. So pause the video, make sure you understand how they're used, what they mean. If you're happy with that, we're going to then go on and learn about DNA and the structure of DNA. So meiosis can look very, very difficult. It's important to know why this happens. So it makes either the sperm cell or the egg cell for reproduction. And this happens in either the testes or the ovaries. So remember, meiosis is only needed for reproduction. So the only cells that can be made from it are sperm cells or egg cells. Collectively, they're called gametes. And that's the word I'm going to use because you really need to remember this word. So meiosis makes gametes. So this diagram is showing a cell that is going to make gametes. And this cell in real life would have 46 chromosomes if it was human. I've just shown you 6 chromosomes. So chromosomes are just long bits of DNA, and humans have 46 chromosomes. I'm just showing you 6, and I've drawn 3 pairs, so a blue pair, a green pair, and an orange pair. And I've done that mainly for the higher students. For later on in the video, I'll explain this slightly differently. But for now, just notice that this cell has got 46 chromosomes. The DNA replicates. This is not actually part of meiosis yet. This is a part of the cell cycle called interphase, which hopefully you remember from B2. And this makes, so this cell now has double the amount of DNA. It still has 46 chromosomes, but these chromosomes have doubled. They are a distinctive X shape, and they are ready to split, and this is the first step of meiosis. So after split 1, each of the daughter cells has just one of the pairs of chromosomes. So now it's only got 23 chromosomes. In my drawing, it used to have 6 chromosomes, now it's got 3 chromosomes. These cells can then both split again to make 2 cells each, so it makes 4 cells, and then X-shaped chromosomes split themselves. So after the second split, this makes 4 gametes, which all have 23 chromosomes, the half the number that the cell that made them had. So when cells split, the cell that was there at the start is called the parent cell, and the cells that are made are always called the daughter cells. Even if they're making sperm cells, they are still called daughter cells. So just to summarise really simply, we started with a cell with 46 chromosomes. So now we've got 2 cells with 23 chromosomes each. This split again, making 4 daughter cells with 23 chromosomes. So compared to mitosis only had 1 split. Meiosis has 2 different splits. Another quick difference is that in mitosis, all of the cells' DNA is exactly the same. So the 2 daughter cells that are made are genetically identical. In meiosis, the DNA in these cells is different. I'm not going to go into detail on how that happened until the higher video. If you are interested and you're doing the foundation level stuff, give it a watch. So the 2 differences between meiosis compared to mitosis. Mitosis only has 1 split, meiosis has 2 splits. Mitosis makes cells that have exactly the same DNA, whereas in meiosis, this makes cells that are different. And this explains why we all look different. Even if we have brothers and sisters, we look different from them because the sperm and egg cells that made us was different. The final thing we're going to do in this video is to look at the structure of DNA. So DNA is just a chemical made out of 3 different things. It's made out of a chemical called phosphate, which is just phosphorus and oxygen. It's made out of a sugar, and it's also made out of a thing called a base. And the base is the clever thing because this can either be an A, C, G or a T, and this gives the genetic code. So to summarise, DNA is just a chemical which is called deoxyribose nucleic acid, DNA. The deoxyribose bit, that's the sugar, and it also has a base which can be A, C, G or T. So on this drawing we can see the thing that I drew last time. This has got the base T. That is joined to another part which has a base which is A, and so on. So because DNA has many parts, it is called a polymer. Polymer meaning many parts. And one strand of DNA is a polymer, and that sticks to another strand of DNA, and the bases stick together with a type of bond which is called a hydrogen bond. This is a bit like a magnet, how a magnet sticks to each other. And during that, an A binds to a T and a C will always bind to a G. So one way to remember this is if you write down A, C, G and T in alphabetical order, then the C and the G, they would always bind together, and the ones on the outside, the A and the T, they also bind together. So you can remember that C always binds to G in that way. Another way is that C and G, when you start writing them, they both start off the same. They're both round letters. I would say an A and a T is more of a sharper letter. So the C and the G, they bond together. So everyone needs to remember that. And they bond together with a hydrogen bond. So the bases are the things that make the genetic code. So all of the A's, C's, G's and T's, that makes up the genetic code. That's a very important part of DNA. The other parts of DNA, the sugar and the phosphate, this is another important part of DNA. It's called the sugar phosphate backbone, and that is for protection. So it protects the inside, the part which has the base and the genetic code. So the backbone of the DNA structure is made out of sugars and phosphate, and everybody also needs to remember that. So if we think about DNA as kind of a ladder, the sides of the ladder will be made out of sugar and phosphate, and the rungs, individual rungs of the ladder, they would be made out of a base. And if you got the sides of the ladder and twisted that, you would get the structure of DNA. It's called the double helix structure, which is like a twisted ladder. So it has a double spiral structure, which is called the double helix. And we have 46 really long pieces of this DNA in our diploid cells, in all of our cells that are not sperm cells or egg cells. So we have 46 chromosomes, 46 pieces of DNA, and this DNA coils onto chromosomes, and there's 46 in the diploid nucleus. So sperm cells and egg cells, they would only have 23 pieces. And the fact I like about DNA, so there is 2 meters of this chemical in each of the cells in our body. And the adult body has 37.2 million cells. So if you times that by 2 meters, our bodies would have enough DNA to go from our bodies around the sun and back to our bodies twice. So you need to understand the structure of DNA. You need to know that it has a sugar phosphate backbone. It has different bases. The 2 different sides are bonded together with a hydrogen bond. You need to understand it as a polymer. You need to know the shape is a double helix, and this coils around to make chromosomes, of which our body cells have 46, and our sex cells would have 23 pieces of DNA called chromosomes. Thank you so much for watching this video. Now please try some questions to make sure you understand meiosis and DNA. If you do, please go on to the next video where we're going to look at alleles, mutations, how we're all different from each other. Thank you very much, and good luck for your upcoming test.